got a big game in Fayetteville. It's a big game. I mean, I think a lot of folks, because it's been 2 years, you still haven't really gotten back acclimated with what road situations mean in college football. Going on the road is hard. It is hard to do. And now that you've got a third of your roster in any given situation that has not played in those environments, it's even harder. So you may look at this point spread and you may say, Texas minus 6.5. Man, they blew out Louisiana last week. Louisiana's better than Arkansas, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, this is a point spread for a reason. It's public. You can go bet on it if you want to. So let's jump into this thing. Texas minus 6.5 at Arkansas. This is a Saturday 7 p.m. kickoff Eastern time on ESPN. This is going to be fun. I mean, you saw Arkansas struggle against Rice. What is our biggest rule on the show? Do not lose to food. And sure enough, Arkansas almost lost to Rice last week, but they got it together in the end, and they rallied and ended up pulling away and covering. That's got to hurt, holding that Rice ticket. That's got to hurt. But then again, I would ask you, what is a responsible adult doing holding a Rice ticket? And that's rhetorical, because when you see the kind of ticket I'm going to ask you to hold in the Ramen Noodle Express later, I'll be the biggest hypocrite in the world. So let's dive in here. Simple flip that Arkansas has to fix. This time last week, we were going into a game and we were wondering, is Texas going to have enough synergy? Hudson Card, first-time starter at quarterback, don't know about the wide receiver position, don't know about the offensive line. How's Texas going to find some consistency? Well, I'll tell you how they did it, and I'm going to tell you what Arkansas has to keep them from doing this week. Texas last week, third down passing, 8 of 10. It's going to win you a lot of football games. Arkansas, they can specialize. They can bread and butter that thing just by shaving that in half. You shave that in half, you take, for all we know, 2 or 3 possessions away from Texas. That's enough to change a football game. I'm going to go through a couple of more things here, but just Texas offensively on third down, that's how they won and pulled away last week. That's how you can keep it a tight ball game this week. Secondly, the Arkansas quarterback, KJ Jefferson. Some of you have watched him. Many more of you have not. He ran the ball a few times last week. I don't know how Sam Pittman and his staff watched that game film against Rice and don't run KJ Jefferson 12 to 15 times this week. It's one of your biggest weapons and surest weapons that you can have on a team that still has a lot of question marks about it offensively. KJ Jefferson, if at least he's able to fall forward and pick up some added yardage and first downs and extend drives, or at most rips off runs like he did, I think, to open the scoring for Arkansas the other day, or how about doubly at most, he's able to hit a couple of pop passes once you've established that run by him throwing on the run. That's a different dynamic. It's a dynamic they have to use. Arkansas has to use that. They don't have 15 different ways to light you up, but this is one of the ways that they can move the chains, they can keep possession of the ball, and keep Texas off the field. Also, as you noticed last week, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan especially, when you were watching that Louisiana game, did you notice something that you didn't notice a whole lot this time last year or last couple of years? There is an A word. It's not Austin. It's not attitude. It's adjustment. I know someone watching in Fortson, Georgia right now who would swear up and down that the stupidest thing in football is waiting until halftime to make adjustments. It's like the bane of his existence. And that would be my father, by the way. What he would say is, everyone's got a headset on, everyone's watching the same game, team has to come to the sideline after every possession. Why can't you fix it with 4 minutes to go until the half? Well, Sark's good at doing that. They made adjustments throughout the game last week, Texas did, and offensively, they kept improving throughout the game. Well, that's all well and good. You now have to carry it over week to week. What he's not going to do, he being Steve Sarkisian, what he's not going to do is back off being aggressive. He is an aggressive play caller. He is a go-for-the-throat kind of dude. He does not feel bad for you. You get a gimpy ankle out there. He's not going to wait a couple of series and let you get back to full speed because it wouldn't be fair to go after you. He's going to go after the throat. That's what he did to them last year. You remember, Steve Sarkisian's faced Barry Odom. Barry Odom being the Arkansas defensive coordinator. They went up there when Sark was with Bama in, I think it was December last year, and just pasted Arkansas. Now, that was a different dynamic, obviously. When you got Devontae Smith in the house, and you got the kind of talent that he did at Alabama, it's a different world, obviously. But I think if they grab that early lead, and Texas was able to do it finally last week, if they grab that early lead, you force Arkansas into a lot of uncomfortable positions. You're forcing them into having to play catch-up with the kind of quarterback that they're not ready to let throw the ball 30, 35 times right now. So if you're Arkansas, you got to avoid that deep end by any means necessary. Special teams, I don't care what you got to do. You got to keep Texas from being up a couple of possessions early. So let's take a look, Jesse, at what the Vegas versus late kick model situation is right now. Remember last week, it loved Texas. I did not hand it out on our super secret Friday night Instagram live gambling chat. I told you the model is screaming, take Texas minus the points. I didn't, and that's my fault. This week, what does it say? Well, the Caesars line in Vegas right now is Texas minus 6.5. The model is virtually dead even with the Vegas number. We got Texas minus 6. So I'm looking at this today, and I'm asking myself, I'm trying to make a case for Arkansas, not just to cover. I'm trying to make a case for them to win. I went back and watched both games at my desk earlier today, and I couldn't paint the picture. I'm not saying it's not there, but if I'm trying to be right here, I'm going to take Texas to win, and here's what I think is going to happen in the end. I think what is a brutal game early on, and what I think is a completely lit Reynolds Razorback Stadium early on, is going to realize how long a four-quarter game is, and I think there's going to be a time in this game, if you're holding an Arkansas ticket, where you feel more than confident. Not only do you got the plus 6.5 in your back pocket, but we may just win this thing outright. And then at the end of the game, Texas will not only have won, somehow they will have covered, and you're going to look at it and you're going to say, how did Arkansas not at least cover? Forget winning. How did they not at least cover? In fact, if you bet Rice last week, the same way you felt with that Rice ticket, well, that's going to have its role reversed this week. So it would be massive now if Sam Pittman gets this win, and I do not discount the passion and the over-the-cliff mentality they have there. I know I've talked about it ad nauseum. I just feel a little bit better about Texas right now. So I'm going to take Texas to win, and I'm going to take them minus anything under 7.